There's been a bunch of documented testing that shows over 86% of prenatal vitamins have heavy metals in them. What you cook your food in is one of the most important things, and then what you store your food in as well. So not all plastic is bad. Some plastic is better than others. There's no federal limits on heavy metals in supplements or protein powders. That's why we keep seeing those news headlines.
Hi guys, on today's episode we have Lindsay Dahl. Lindsay is an activist, the author of her recent book Cleaning House, as well as the Chief Impact Officer at Ritual. For someone whose whole brand is about non-toxic, clean living, I found Lindsay's take so refreshing. She is all about balance and not sweating the small stuff. She also taught me all about the traceability of the ingredients in Ritual's products. And let me tell you, it now makes me question all other supplement brands and their ingredients. I hope you enjoy. Lindsay Dahl, thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to be with you today.
Thanks for having me.
So you are the Chief Impact Officer at Ritual now. You've been there almost 4 years. And prior to that, you were at Beauty Counter for 8 years. And that's just scratching the surface of the work that you've done for the clean living movement. But what originally inspired you to get into this work?
I stumbled into this work by accident.
Really?
So, yeah, it wasn't something that I sought out. I graduated from college and I was dedicated to protecting the environment. And I had a lot of passion, but a really short resume.
Okay.
And all the kind of environmental work that I was applying for, they didn't have jobs open. And I was waiting tables and doing what you do after college. Mm-hmm. And I applied for this role that was working in environmental health. Okay. And when I kind of was reading the job description, it was about getting toxic chemicals out of baby products. And think about it, I'm 21, 22 years old. And like baby products are the last thing that feel cool to me at the time. And I was like, okay, I don't really get what environmental health is, but I'll take the job.
Okay.
And I quickly learned that it was hard sometimes to get people to care about the environment, plant ecosystems that they're far away from. But their home environment was very easy to get people engaged and talking about. And so while the issue toxic chemical pollution wasn't high on my radar, I quickly learned that the connection between toxic chemicals in our products can help translate and bring people along on this journey to understand how those same toxic chemicals live well beyond the four walls of our homes. And so it was kind of an interesting serendipitous thing that has led to now a 20-year career.
Wow. So were you in a nonprofit where you started?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
I was working for an environmental nonprofit in Minnesota at the time,
Okay.
and there was a bunch of different states that were working on state level legislation to ban toxic chemicals from baby products. And this is like long before anyone was talking about this, mid-2000s. People didn't know what BPA was. We were really starting at the kind of beginning.
Yeah.
The only thing that was on people's radar was that there was a recall of Thomas the Train tank engines because they had really high levels of lead. So that was really the only connection people had to children's toys and toxic chemicals.
Okay.
And so we had to start at ground level when people didn't know about this massive body of science and start to bring them along on the journey. And now, 20 years later, it's absolutely exploded.
Yeah.
And you can't meet someone on the street who hasn't heard something
Right.
about this topic.
So something that I hear from a lot of people, and I'm sure you hear this all the time as well, is they get really overwhelmed because the more you pay attention, the more it feels, because there is toxic chemicals everywhere in our lives. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, like I was offering you a water when you walked in, and in my mind, I'm like, I think I'm doing the right thing because I have glass water bottles and I'm trying to make sure I'm not using single-use plastic all the time. And then I saw on Instagram the other day that even the glass water bottles have plastic in them. So for people who feel like they don't even know where to begin, it's so overwhelming, where do you recommend beginning?
It's a big question. I would love to kind of get into it. So the first thing is you can't shop your way to safety.
Okay.
And some people hear that and they're like, oh, that's depressing. I just want to know what to do.
Yeah.
I actually want people to think of it as empowering. And I'm going to tell you why. This shouldn't be on our shoulders. Like we shouldn't have to be spending the time and energy and resources because there's still a cost difference in many cases for safer products. And no matter how great you are at shopping for safer products, naturally, as a byproduct of global pollutants, many of us have different levels of toxic chemicals in our bodies. Mm-hmm. It doesn't automatically mean we're going to get sick. Mm-hmm. And the reason I want people to know they can't shop their way to safety is to know that this isn't entirely on us to fix, and consumers can't solve the problem. Now, what I will say is that consumer behavior plus passing laws to help protect people at the state and federal level is really the kind of magic combination.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you some hopeful stories to help kind of make this real for people. So the first thing is there's been a bunch of biomonitoring studies where they test people's blood, urine, hair for different toxic chemicals. The CDC actually does an annual population-wide biomonitoring. And when we banned lead in gasoline and household paint, over the next 9 years, we saw the blood lead levels in children absolutely plummet by 90%.
Wow.
So this is something that we take for granted today. If you go to fill up your car at the gas station, we just don't think twice about unleaded gasoline. That was a federal policy that has had population-wide benefits.
Wow.
The same holds true for consumer choices. So there's also been biomonitoring studies that show interventions. One was done where they had a chef come in and make for several families all of their food from scratch for 3 days. So nothing was in food packaging. And what they found was that within 3 days, the levels of BPA and phthalates in those families dropped by up to 60%.
Whoa.
And then they went back to their normal diets, and 3 days later, the levels went right back up.
I thought you were going to say like 6%.
60. Another study from UC Berkeley looked at Latina teenagers and switched to clean beauty products within 3 days, between 25 and 45% reduction in phthalates, parabens, and triclosan.
Whoa.
So what this tells me, and this is why I don't want people to absolutely get overwhelmed, is that your consumer choices matter. You don't have to go and get your body tested.
Okay.
By making strategic choices in your home, you can know based on science that you're reducing the amount of toxic chemical exposure you're exposed to and in your body. Simultaneously, if we help to continue to pass these state and federal laws, which have had a ton of bipartisan support, every single law I've helped pass has had bipartisan support, we know that we can then also turn off the tap at the source of this, which is the chemical industry, and companies should be required to make sure that their products, ingredients, and chemicals are safe before they get into our products.
Got it. But as a consumer, obviously not all products are created equal. Let's start with cleaning products, right? I'm trying to optimize my body for fertility, to start trying to conceive. Obviously, I'm thinking about my home, bringing a future baby into it. And I know this is when a lot of people start thinking very seriously about this stuff. If I had to choose one thing, or let's say 3 things, what would you be looking for on product labels?
Yeah. I'll pick some of the 4 rooms maybe that we can go in. I'll give you a priority for each room.
Great.
So since you mentioned your life stage, the first thing I would look at is what you're putting in your body, especially supplements and prenatal vitamins. Obviously, in the industry right now, I work for Ritual, but there's been a bunch of documented testing that shows over 86% of prenatal vitamins have heavy metals in them.
Hold on. 86% of prenatal vitamins
of those tested, yes.
Have lead in them?
Yes, heavy metals, various heavy metals.
Oh my gosh, okay.
And you're going to find lead and cadmium and heavy metals in everything. So you can't avoid heavy metals entirely. But companies can have better sourcing practices to help reduce that contamination.
Okay.
And so what we do at Ritual, and we just helped pass a bill in the state of California that required for the first time for prenatal vitamin companies to share their heavy metal test results publicly.
Wow.
So both on their websites. This has a national impact. It doesn't matter that was just passed in the state of California. And what this really is going to do is create a positive incentive for companies to find lower contamination raw materials that you mix together in order to make the prenatal vitamin.
Wow.
So the same holds true for like protein powders. Consumer Reports also just came out. These are a lot of the kind of products that you're using to help supplement and nourish your body, whether you're in a fertility life phase or not. And my number 1 tip in the supplement category is to look for the Clean Label Project certified logo.
Okay.
They are third-party certification. They even have a purity award, so like the safest of all the products tested. And they're testing for over 200 contaminants, everything from plastic, chemicals like bisphenols and phthalates to heavy metals to over 200 different pesticides. So Clean Label Project is one of the certifications I love for supplements, and I definitely encourage people to prioritize brands that have that certification.
Okay, that's a really helpful tip and tool, and I can picture the label that you're talking about.
It's easy to see, and more brands have it, which is great. Okay, so let's talk about beauty and personal care products.
Yeah.
Really prioritize the products that stay on your body all day.
Okay.
So that would be like your lotion, makeup, things like that. If you have a choice and you love your shampoo or your conditioner and maybe it doesn't have the best ingredients, it's a rinse off product. So your exposure is going to be far less than something that stays on your skin. And certainly cosmetics have more high hazard ingredients in them than skincare and personal care products. So that's a good thing to look for. And I love EWG verified. And Made Safe Certified. Those are two certifications that show that there's a higher standard of safety. And the retailer Credo, which sells online, has the strictest safety standards in the industry. So if you also just want to go to Credo, you can have a one-stop shop there.
That makes sense, that if it's a shampoo or conditioner where you're rinsing it off, it's not staying on you all day.
Yep.
One selfish question. I've always been a perfume girl. And obviously learning over the past few years about how toxic fragrances are, I've switched to clean fragrance companies like Henry Rose. Is there such thing as clean fragrance? Is that still toxic? Especially if you have a baby around, should you just be doing zero fragrance at all on anything?
Great question. Yes, you can have safe fragrance. And I, again, look for EWG verified fragrances. Henry Rose was actually the first EWG verified product on the market. And I think fragrance is a good example of, a lot of people talk about just only get things that are natural ingredients and avoid anything synthetic. It's actually not that simple. Some natural ingredients, like the case of protein powder, for example, have some concerns, and some synthetic ingredients are totally safe. And Henry Rose is a great example of a brand that has used natural and synthetic ingredients to create a really safe formula. And so I want people to focus less on what's natural or synthetic and really focus on the safety profile of those different ingredients. And certainly I have 2 young kids. I abstained from wearing perfume, especially when they were younger, just because even if it was safe, the actual scent can also just, create allergens for some people. So I actually abstained from fragrance, even though there's safer ones, while I was pregnant and probably the first year or so after they were born. But yeah, the take home is, 10 years ago, I didn't recommend any perfume, and now there's definitely some good options out there.
Okay, that's good to know. And then same with makeup. Your Beauty Counter is a great brand. And also, I feel like 10 years ago, if you bought a clean makeup product, you could kind of tell in the way it performed. Whereas now we have some really nice options for foundations and things that stay put, like the toxic stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you don't have to compromise anymore, which is amazing. Some of my favorite brands, Beauty Counter is now called Counter. They, relaunched the business with the same formulas. So I love their makeup and skincare products. Osea Malibu is one of my favorite body care lines.
I love their body oil.
It smells so good.
Oh my gosh, it smells so good.
Yeah.
So would that be considered a product with fragrance? No, right? Oh, it would be. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scented and I think they use a blend of essential oils. That's something that I wouldn't worry about when I'm talking about abstaining from fragrance if it's like spray on perfume.
Like a spray perfume.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, but a lot of these, skincare products, almost all of them have fragrance in them and it doesn't really stay with you for that long.
And if it's essential oil based, it's fine.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Which is good. If it's natural, it doesn't automatically mean it's safe. But typically, those have a tendency to be safer. And I think the big thing to look for is if, say, you have an essential oil roller and it flashes off within 2 hours, or if it stays for 24 hours.
Okay.
If fragrances stay on you for a long time, they likely have phthalates, which help bind it to your skin and keep it on your body. Phthalates are one of the ingredients that won't be on the label, but we do want to avoid when it comes to fragrances.
Okay.
And so if you have an essential oil and it doesn't bother you and you notice that goes away in a couple hours, that's actually a good thing.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. That is something I've noticed with, that it's something I used to look for in perfumes, like ones that stayed a long time. And I do notice with cleaner products, they don't stay as long, but it's fine. You just kind of keep it in your purse and roll it on when you want. I love that. How old are your kids?
They are 5 and almost 7.
Okay. How do you navigate? I know it's a big thing, like whether it's, mother-in-law, like grandparents or family members or friends, when they buy your kids products for their birthday or something, maybe it's toys, maybe it's clothes, and it's made with a certain type of plastic or a fabric that you don't like. How do you navigate that?
I don't sweat it. It's too complicated. There's a lot of big problems in the world, and having your kid open a toy and then having to take it away from them. We can't take away and steal the joy from childhood.
Right.
There are toys that my children have received that have ingredients or plastic materials or vinyl that I don't love. Kids get tired of toys, and I quickly kind of get rid of that one.
I was going to say, can you just move it? Kind of just put it in a drawer, see if they miss it. And if they don't,
I do that all the time.
Be retired. Okay.
Yeah, I do that all the time. And I mean, same goes for birthday party, little goodie bags. They come home with this stuff where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want all this junk in my house. But it's fine. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I
That's
don't
refreshing to hear.
Want to put that kind of neuroses on my children.
Yeah.
And I'm really in this to play the long game. Yeah. And I think if you're focusing on the biggest parts of exposure in your home, we didn't talk about kitchen or bedroom when we can, but if you're really focused on those big levers, that's where the science shows the greatest exposure. So if your kid plays with a toy for 2 weeks, again, we have natural detox systems in our body, including our digestive system is the primary one, that are designed to help and support us. So again, hopefully that takes a little bit of pressure off for people.
Yeah.
To this isn't something you should always be stressing about.
No, that's relieving to hear. Because I have a couple of friends who have babies, and they're very strict with their parents about, no, we only want wood products, or, none of this stuff from Amazon, from China. And I'm like, oh gosh, that sounds stressful to have to police that so strongly. And that's relieving to hear.
You can be subtle about it.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't make the gift giver feel bad and doesn't steal that moment of joy from your kids.
Yeah. And you can kind of just phase them out, like you said. And then do you do the same thing with food, where you're cooking very clean with products and ingredients and love at home, but if they're at a birthday party or at a friend's house, you're not going to be like,
absolutely,
my kid's gluten, dairy, and soy sugar free.
Yeah. If they're at a birthday party, they're going to have a piece of cake with their friends.
Okay.
And I'm not going to worry about what's in the frosting.
I love that.
We have to play the long game. And, if you think about one of the best cancer researchers described this to me, and I'll never forget it. He was think about a pie, and the pie is your overall cancer risk. Okay. And he was so there's different slices of the pie, and those different slices are going to be different sizes. So your genetics, where you work, all these things. And one of those slices is the environmental slice. And that's everything from chemicals and you're exposed to in your home or your workplace over the course of your life. And he was if we can remove as many of those, factors in that piece of pie, you still have the rest of everything else, Right. And so it's you can't put all of this pressure.
Right.
Because even if someone does get sick later on in life, we can't connect it to your couch. We'll never be able to do that.
Right.
But what we can do is take a step back and be these are our overall exposures. We're going to try to reduce them. We're going to try to change the system, as we already have in the last 20 years. We made so much progress to make products safer. And I think, stress and cortisol are also very toxic to our bodies. And so you can't lose the forest for the trees.
I love that. I love that so much. So you mentioned the kitchen is one of the areas that affects our bodies the most. What are some products that you're focusing on that are cleaner in your kitchen?
The number one thing I want people to think about is their cookware. Okay. So if you're going to prioritize, I'd really lean in on cast iron if that's too heavy and high maintenance for you, stainless steel.
Okay.
And it means you have to cook with a little bit more oil sometimes if you're making eggs. But even a lot of the different kind of non-PFAS coatings, they either wear off really quickly.
They melt off.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that because my husband and I got married last year. We registered for this full set of this very well-known brand of that clean cookware and got rid of all of our old Teflon and some stainless steel that were old and not in good condition. The coating is melting off because we like to cook things at high heat sometimes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just frustrated.
I had, again, one of those safer nonstick pans that I would keep for eggs and tofu.
Yeah.
Just because I was mostly do stainless steel, but I want one of these. And every year the coating didn't work anymore. So they are coming off into your food. And I wouldn't be as concerned about that except for the fact that I haven't found yet one of those companies to be transparent about what their coatings actually are.
Ooh.
So if you're not going to be forthcoming about what they are, but you're going to lean in heavily on saying these are PFAS free or forever chemical free, that feels like a big red flag for me as someone who navigates those questions questions from companies all the time. Like, you shouldn't have anything to hide. So what we know is that cast iron, stainless steel, and carbon steel we're not going to have a gotcha moment, because stainless steel is just stainless steel.
Right.
So what you cook your food in is one of the most important things, and then what you store your food in as well.
Okay.
But not all plastic is bad. Some plastic is better than others. But ultimately, storing your food in glass containers, especially things that were hot or heated.
Right.
If I go to someone else's house, they're like, I don't want you to see I have plastic in my fridge. I'm like, I do too. It's like the strawberries I cut up. Like,
Right.
that's not going to leach into my strawberries and
Right.
then get into me and my kid's body. So it's also just like knowing how these materials act
Right.
can help you prioritize. But those are the two big things to think about in the kitchen.
Okay. I love that. I love that so much. And then cleaning products, are there any brands in particular that you like to call out?
Yeah. I mean, I've been a longtime fan of Seventh Generation for a really long time.
Yeah, okay.
They still are one of my favorites. They make really good products, really strong sustainability programs.
Okay.
And on household cleaners, the best way to look for the EPA Safer Choice logo.
Okay.
So that logo indicates that they've met a high standard for safe ingredients. And vinegar is also one of the best household cleaners, super cheap. You can
yeah.
get in a jug at Costco and you're good to go.
Can you use that as a laundry detergent?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah, for
Okay.
musty. I use it for like musty towels and stuff too.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. I need to start doing that, because clean laundry detergent I'm buying right now is so expensive.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. And that's something I'm sure you hear all the time as well. It feels very expensive to make all of these switches, and then it's refreshing to hear you could actually use vinegar and it'll probably be cheaper than even the Tide, right?
For sure. The nice thing is vinegar, the smell goes away so fast
Yeah.
that like your clothes aren't going to smell like vinegar.
Right.
Even if you're washing your floors or your countertops with vinegar and water from a spray bottle, I mean, it goes away very quickly, and it kills 97 to 98% of viruses and bacteria. It's like one of the
Wow.
oldest tried and true things.
Yeah.
So if people can, and even now, like stainless steel used to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be anymore. You can really buy affordable stainless steel sets. Same for cast iron. So if you can kind of make some of those more affordable choices and then save up for bigger ticket items, whether it's a couch, mattress, or the makeup that you wear.
Okay. What about clothing? Obviously, we have so much fast fashion nowadays. How is that affecting us?
There's not a lot of science to actually answer that question. I care about chemicals in clothing, less about how it affects us and more about how it affects the workers.
Yeah.
So the biggest ingredients of concern when it comes to clothing are in the performance wear area. So if there's microfibers that are shedding and turning into microplastic like fleeces, some of them have PFAS coatings, so forever chemical coatings on like rain gear, that type of stuff. But really, like a lot of the dyes that are used to make all of these, they're mostly impacting workers and the communities where our clothes are made. So it ends up contaminating the groundwater for those local communities. So I still love prioritizing brands that have strong safety, commitments to not using chemicals of concern. But the reality is that a dye is mostly gone. It's not going to be getting into our skin. The dermal exposure. So like for my kids, I wasn't worried about, I only have to have organic cotton for their skin.
Right.
It's not a huge exposure risk for them.
Okay.
But if you can have organic cotton, the farm workers who are harvesting that cotton are going to have significantly less impacts because they're not harvesting pesticide-laden cotton. So again, trying to pull out and think about if you can afford to make these choices, that's great, but it's also not something to worry too much about.
So many ads for 100% cotton activewear, and see so many influencers talking about we shouldn't be wearing these traditional activewear brands. As someone though that likes to work out hard, like I've tried the organic cotton leggings. It's not as comfortable to wear. So would that be something that you're not as concerned about, especially if it's just to wear for a workout and then take it off?
I think so. I get all the same content
Yeah.
delivered to me. I will say I love the brand Mate the Label. They
Yeah.
have a real commitment. I know their founder and CEO. I think they talk about it in an artful way. There's definitely a lot of overstated claims in the
Yeah.
athletic wear space. For example, people talk about, oh, well, you're sweating, and so it's going to get into your pores more, and you're going to have more exposure. There's no science behind that.
Right. Or the whole like like for women especially, it's over, our reproductive area and it's seeping straight into your reproductive organs.
Yeah.
It's so scary. Is that real? Like,
yeah,
is anyone...
it's not.
Okay.
And if you think about, again,
Once again, super relieving to
I
hear.
know people think they're like, oh, you're an expert in this space. You must be super depressing. No, I'm actually on the other side. I know what we can and cannot control. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like when people first get into this topic, I like to draw the parallel. It feels the diet culture I grew up watching my mom engage with
Yes.
now has a new flavor.
Yes.
And it's just a different game of control, the
Yeah.
control around our products. And that is fine. As we talked about in the beginning, look, there's real science and we've got some problems here with toxic chemicals, but it definitely, for a lot of companies, has become predatory in the way that they market. There's a lot of overstated claims out there.
That's really good to know. So you've helped make such massive change in both the beauty and the wellness industry. But what do you think most people still misunderstand about the clean living space?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like it's changed over the years. I think the biggest misconception right now around clean living, it's actually why I wrote my book. There's such strong backlash to clean living, especially on social media. It's a group that I call the dismissers. And, it's a lot of like public health leaders that are like, this is all pseudoscience. Don't believe this is all fear mongering. And I get it. They're reacting to what we talked about, like athletic wear companies trying to scare you into thinking your ovaries are ineffective because you wore these underwear. I get it. There's that fodder has been there. It will always be there. But the pendulum has swung so far that we now have people that are not environmental health experts, even if they're scientists, that are dismissing this entire issue and saying this is fear mongering. Don't worry about it. Little doses don't matter. The reality is sometimes that's true and sometimes that's not. Mm-hmm. And so what I want people to know is that clean living is not just some elite, can you afford it movement. Okay. It actually, its origins start in social justice and communities living where these chemicals are made right here in the United States.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to have both the burden of trying to shop the marketplace or it only be accessible to people that can afford it. So I think the biggest misconception is that this is all pseudoscience. And it's not. Like, this is science that's dating back to the early 1900s. It's building on the legacy of people like Rachel Carson from the 1960s. And even though there's a lot of kind of overstated wellness influencers or brands out there, it doesn't mean there's not a real issue with toxic chemical pollution.
Yeah. 100%. And as we mentioned, you're the Chief Impact Officer at Ritual. What made you want to join the Ritual team?
I was a Ritual consumer before I joined the company. I took their prenatal, and I am highly skeptical of the supplement industry.
Yeah.
I first started working in toys, then I went to household consumer products, then to the beauty industry. And supplements felt like the next frontier of an industry that really needed more oversight.
It is crazy to think there's no joy in swallowing a pill, right? Mm-hmm. You can make the argument that this food, even though I know it's bad for me, if it brings me so much joy, you can kind of justify it, right? Supplements we're purely taking because to benefit our health. So to think that, what'd you say, 86% of, and that's just prenatals, have these toxic heavy metals and leads in them. It's crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just thinking about all the supplements I take. And I'm like, wait, those could be toxic?
You're absolutely right. So there's two key questions that consumers have when they're shopping the supplement aisle, myself included, which is this safe for me and is it going to work? And the reality of the fact is that we have so little oversight over the supplement industry that companies don't have to prove safety or efficacy. And so what we have is we've got consumer testing or peer-reviewed literature that shows things like heavy metals are widespread across supplements, especially those are natural or botanical. They're at higher risk for heavy metal exposure. And then we also have a bunch of brands that are using terms like clinically backed, clinically studied, and maybe they're using one ingredient that was clinically studied in the whole formula. And most oftentimes, they're not using it at the dose that was in the clinical study. And so you've got these, consumers are paying a premium for products that they think have been studied through a clinical to prove efficacy. And that's actually not required. So Ritual set a commitment to have human clinical trials on all of our products by 2030.
Wow.
You don't have to do this in order to bring a product to market.
No, you do not.
And the supplement industry has grown dramatically. So think about it. The last time there was a federal law was in 1994, the year that Friends aired. And
the year I was born.
Okay, awesome. So in over 30 years, there were 4,000 supplements on the market in 94. There's
Okay.
now over 100,000 products on the market,
Wow.
and we've never updated our laws since.
Wow.
So there's no federal limits on heavy metals in supplements or protein powders. That's why we keep seeing those news headlines. There's no standards or strict guidelines for how companies use the term clinically studied. That's why consumers are being misled. And Ritual's really trying to use traceable science and sourcing as a way to address both of those problems. And we're never going to claim to be perfect, but we're going to tell people and be as transparent about everything, including our suppliers, all along the way.
That's awesome. I saw you guys recently launched a chocolate protein powder, and I've heard you talk about the fact that you thought you may never get there. Why was that? Because I've been consuming chocolate protein powder from other brands for the last 15 years. What's happening on that front?
Yeah. So chocolate protein powder is high risk for two reasons, especially the way that Ritual formulates, because we use regenerative organic peas from North America. So we're not using whey, which comes from cows.
Okay.
And so since we're using pea protein, a plant-based protein instead of a animal-based protein, it's at a higher risk for heavy metal contamination.
Okay.
And the cows actually absorb the heavy metals when they're eating the grass. And so the first thing is we knew we could make a vanilla. We've had a vanilla protein powder on the market for years. And by sourcing our peas from North America rather than abroad, we naturally saw lower heavy metal contamination. So we were excited about that. But every time we went to make a chocolate protein powder, chocolate is also really high risk. So if you see headlines about lead in chocolate bars, chocolate and cacao is one of the higher risk. It's both really effective at pulling heavy metals from the earth. Some plants are better at that than others. And so when you combine those two, the plant-based protein powder plus the chocolate, we didn't think we could make one that would fit within our safety standards. But the good news is, and this is where ingredient traceability comes in, we worked really hard over the course of 3-4 years, found really good cocoa suppliers. Me and my team also vetted them and that supply chain for human rights issues, because there's a lot of child labor that's used in the cocoa industry, especially in West Africa. So
Really?
we found a really good partner. So the safety is not just about safety for us, it's also
Right.
about safety for people harvesting a lot of these ingredients. And so we found a great supplier that also works to have traceability, which helps give more confidence around the human rights of the workers within the supply chain. And we just launched chocolate protein, and we were so excited because we won the Purity Award from Clean Label Project,
Wow.
which is really hard to do for plant-based protein, let alone for a chocolate.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's a huge
And it tastes good.
feat. I know. So I take the Ritual multivitamin. I need to switch to the prenatal, and then I need to try your protein powders because that's amazing. And it makes you wonder what's in the other brands.
I've eaten plenty of those over the years before Ritual came on the market.
Yeah, I know. Protein powder's always been such a staple in my diet, and it's, I thought I was eating a clean one, but yeah, the deeper you dig, the more you learn.
Yep.
Before we get to our rapid fire round, are there 3 tangible tips you give people that want to start clean living? I mean, we kind of started it for the different rooms of the home earlier. I don't think we hit the bedroom, so maybe we can kind of start there, and then any other tips that you have for people who want to get started with this.
I definitely encourage people to check out my book because I have a easy guide at the end that really helps guide based on, we go through every room in the house and I give you really simple tips, try to make it as easy as possible. But my 3 tips are as follows. The first is to try to buy less stuff. So the less things you buy, the less exposed to different ingredients you'll be. We also just consume too much. If I even think about how much I buy compared to 10, 15 years ago, we all buy a lot more because it's so convenient.
So easy.
It's so easy now. And so try to buy less things, number 1. Number 2, really look for certifications like EPA Safer Choice, EWG Verified, Made Safe, and Clean Label Project. Like those are great for go-to places to look. And then really focus on the bigger ticket items in your home. And this may mean saving up for a little bit of time, but flame retardants and PFAS are the 2 kind of big things when it comes to your couches. If you're going to get a new couch, ask for no stain-resistant treatment on it. That's an indicator that they covered it in forever chemicals.
Ooh, okay.
And same for mattresses. If you're on the market, you can now find affordable mattresses that are flame retardant and PFAS free. Really ranges across the spectrum, but IKEA has really affordable mattresses. They've been making them without these problematic chemicals for years. So that's
Really?
where I would focus. Yeah, they've got a great chemicals program.
I did not expect that. That's awesome. Okay, amazing. And then just a few rapid fire questions for you. What is one non-negotiable in your personal wellness routine?
Ooh, sleep.
Love.
I'm a big sleep lady. So I go to bed real early because my kids
Yeah.
get up early. Sleep is number one.
How many hours?
I don't know. I used to be
Okay.
obsessive about it, and now
Okay.
I don't do any trackers or anything. I go to bed at 9
Yeah,
to 6, however many hours that is.
I love that. It's 9. I feel like such a baby about it, but I swear if I get 1 minute less than 7.5 hours of sleep, I am not okay. One product or swap that's made the biggest difference you feel in your own health.
I got on the weighted vest train.
Oh, yeah?
Honestly, I love it. I'm mid-40s, and it has transformed my walks.
Really?
Yeah, love it.
Tell me more. Like you feel stronger?
I feel stronger
from doing it?
And I don't have a lot of time. I have historically worked out a bunch in my life. I don't have a lot of time between work, book launch, kids, whatever. And so walking is, if I have one thing to do, I get to go on a walk. And so if I make it a weighted walk, I feel like I'm maximizing the very small window of time that I do have.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love maximizing everything I'm doing at once. What is one myth about clean living that you wish would disappear?
That everything that's natural is automatically safe.
So what is something that's natural that's not safe?
Some essential oils are hormone disruptors.
Really?
Heavy metals are naturally occurring. They come from the
True.
Earth's crust. They're
That's
not
so
added
true.
to any products. They're contaminants.
Okay.
Yeah, certain citrus oils that are used in beauty and personal care products actually can help transform in a bad way your skin cells that are mutagenic.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Good to know. Okay. And finally, what does living a full health span mean to you personally?
I think trying to use our time on this earth to make the world a little bit better is my big thing. It's how I'm wired. I'm an activist, and I like big problems that need systemic change. And some people get overwhelmed by that, but I kind of feel like that's why I'm here. So let's use our voices and, call our elected officials and push companies to do better and have meaningful conversations with friends and family.
How can we support you in your initiatives? Because it is so important.
Thank you for asking that. I have a robust take action section in my book, and I like to say it's not a to-do list, it's a menu. So
Okay.
you pick whatever you want. And I have, the phone number for the Capitol switchboard. I have scripts written out that are super simple,
Okay.
And the single most important high impact thing you can do is call your elected officials and say, I don't want toxic chemical rollbacks to the existing laws we have or toxic chemicals in my consumer products. It literally has to be that fast. You can leave a voicemail. Some 22-year-old staffer will pick up the phone. And I get to see as a lobbyist how those phone calls, how much they have changed, how politicians think, talk, and vote on these issues in the last 20 years.
Okay.
And phone calls absolutely matter.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. And then my last question is, are you looking at other countries? I know the EU has higher standards for the chemicals that go into our foods. Are you looking at other countries for the standards that you're looking for the US to meet at all?
No.
Okay.
And the reason for that, I think it's a helpful point that I talk about. Look, these other countries have been doing this for sometimes 20 years now.
Okay.
We're behind the ball. But I don't think all of the laws that I see internationally are necessarily synonymous with exactly what we should do here.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, oh, well, this law doesn't work because of X, Y, or Z flaw. We're humans creating, they're always iterative. So we're always having to update these laws, whether it's international or here in the United States. So I see in many instances, like a lot of the stuff that I did in DC, we were actually asking for stronger laws than what you see in the European Union. So I think they're steps ahead of us, but I still think we need to go even further than a lot of what we see there. And thankfully, the consumer marketplace has changed so much that, people used to say, I'm just going to buy my beauty products from the European Union. Now, some of the clean brands here are actually safer than the EU standards, which that wasn't the case a little bit ago.
That's really good to know. Where can people find you? Where can they buy the book?
Yeah.
And just all the work you're doing with Ritual?
Thank you. Yeah, you can buy my book anywhere. It's at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, your independent bookstore, wherever you can find it. I'm a first-time author, so anyone who buys it, I'm super appreciative. If you like it, leave a review. And Ritual, we have products across different women's health lifespans. I really encourage people to check out our work. See if you like our products. I think they're fantastic. The Ultimate Skeptic now works there and applied for a job there. And I also write on Substack. So if you want this kind of nuanced but easy to understand type content, you can follow me there.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This podcast was brought to you by Pureform, a comprehensive wellness center in Boca Raton, Florida. The website is pureformhealth.com, or you can find us on Instagram at pureformhealth. Feel free to message us with any questions, and note that you can connect with our providers for consultations over Zoom, from everything from stem cell therapy to hormone replacement therapy and peptide therapy. That's it for this episode of the Healthspan Collective. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and send it to a friend. We'd also love to connect with you on Instagram. Follow the podcast at Healthspan Collective and me at Nicole J. Doran. And leave us a comment on our latest post, letting us know what you'd like us to cover next.